Welcome everybody. You are at the film screening for Kiss the Ground. Thanks for joining us tonight. All right. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Erin Griffin. I'm the Youth Climate Program Manager at the Wild Center. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm calling today from Saranac Lake, which is occupied Haudenosaunee land. We're all so glad that you're here tonight. We know in this day and age, it is no small feat to tune into a virtual event. So we really appreciate each one of you that are here, spending time with us this evening. And we're excited because we have some good and hopeful stories to share with you about climate change solutions that are happening right here in the Adirondacks. And we really feel like we could just use some more positive stories these days. So as we open, please feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from and let us know what you're excited to learn about tonight. We have a lot of experts on food system solutions and composting here with us. So if you have specific questions at any time, please feel free to put them in the chat or use the Q&A function as well. And we're just excited to hear where everyone's coming from tonight and get a sense of the community that's out there. So next, I would just like to shine the spotlight on some of the partners that are part of making all of this amazing work happen tonight. Oh, interesting.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm just going to reshare my screen.
That's okay.
Sorry
hi,
about
everyone.
That.
That's okay. So I'm Christina. I'm the communications coordinator at ADK Action, and we are a nonprofit located here in the Adirondacks of upstate New York. We work to create innovative projects that address unmet needs in our area to promote vibrant communities and preserve the natural character of our region. So one of our newest projects has been to take the Compost for Good team under our wing to help them spark a composting revolution by reimagining how we treat our organic wastes in the region and farther abroad. So for context, some of our other active projects are increasing native habitat for pollinators and working to expand access to locally grown food. So Compost for Good is just a natural fit for us. So the Compost for Good team in its entirety is John Culpepper, Katie Culpepper, and Jen Perry, and we have 66.6% of that team with us tonight. So I'm going to let John and Katie take it from here.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm so glad all of you could join us tonight. I am one of the co-founders of Compost for Good, as Christina said, alongside John Culpepper, who you'll hear from more in just a minute, and Jennifer Perry, who couldn't join us tonight, but is an important part of our team. We are so excited to be joining ADK Action, to be working with them to help communities in the Adirondacks and abroad to reimagine their. We started this project because we believe really strongly that composting our food waste and other organics is an important part of building a more resilient and regenerative world. So thank you, and hope you enjoy the screening.
All right, thank you. And I am here as part of the Wild Center, which is a new kind of science museum in Tupper Lake, New York. And run out of the Wild Center is a youth climate program, which is a global initiative to empower youth to take climate action in their schools and communities. And we are joined tonight by several students from the region that are going to share their work with composting. So if I could invite them to just turn their cameras on and introduce themselves. Let's see, Libby, can you introduce yourself first?
Yes, so hi, I'm Libby Gillis. I'm a junior at Tupper Lake Middle High School, and I sort of got into the composting program through my school's green team and also through the Wild Center.
Thanks, Libby. Astrid, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Astrid Livesey, and I am a junior at the Lake Placid High School, and I got involved with my school's composting project through our environmental club and environmental club advisor.
Thanks, Astrid. And let's see, how about Ellen next?
Hi, I'm Ellen Lansing, and I'm also a junior at Lake Placid High School, and I also got involved with composting through our environmental club and our advisor.
Thanks, Ellen. And then last but not least is Ruby.
Hi, I'm Ruby. I go to Tupper Lake Middle High School, and I'm a junior. I got involved with composting through our green team, like most of us, but really at my first climate summit is where I realized how helpful it can be.
All right, thanks. And I'm excited for all the students to share their experience with composting in their schools later. So of course, we also have to thank our funders and sponsors and supporters, the New York State Pollution Prevention Institute. And you can see their website here if you want to find out more about their great work. And then also thank you to the Adirondack North Country Association that was able to secure funding for several of the composters that you'll hear about tonight through NYSERDA's Cleaner, Greener Communities program. So what all these partners have in common is that we are invested in climate change solutions for the Adirondacks and the world. So tonight we are going to focus on one of the major contributors to climate change, as well as an area that has massive potential for solutions, which is the food system. And after we share some of the examples happening here in the Adirondacks, we'll transition to the film and get a sense for how what's happening locally really fits into this bigger picture of solutions for food systems happening around the world. So when we think about climate change solutions, one of the most powerful and reliable resources out there to learn about climate change solutions is called Project Drawdown. So the drawdown refers to the point at which we are drawing more greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide and methane, out of the atmosphere than we are adding. So what Project Drawdown did is they researched all of the solutions to climate change that we are able to implement right now with existing technology. So we're not waiting for anything to be invented in the future. What do we have right now that we can roll out? And this is some of what Project Drawdown found. So on the left side of this rainbow here, you can see all of the sources of greenhouse gas emissions. And you can see the two largest sources all the way on the left are electricity production at 25%. And then you can see food, agriculture, and land use are nearly tied at 24%. So that means that the way that we grow and distribute and prepare and throw away food is one of the most powerful drivers of climate change, but it's also one of the areas that has the highest potential for reducing emissions. And I highly recommend, if you go to drawdown.org, if you want to learn more about this and learn more about the way that they present climate change solutions, check out their website. It's an amazing resource to check out. But today, we are really focused on solutions that have to do with food, because everyone likes talking about food, right? I don't know about you all, but I know that for me, planning and preparing and most importantly, eating food has been a big part of my life during the pandemic. And we know that we're choosing what we eat and how we deal with food waste every single day of our lives. So that just means every single day we have opportunities to make choices that can impact climate change. It's something that affects all of us every day in our lives. So right now, I would really love to hear from all of you for the question that's on the screen. So warm up your fingers, get ready to, add to the chat box. What do you think are some of the top solutions to climate change that involve the food system? There are so many, but just go ahead and put in the chat ones that you think might be the top, like the highest ones in terms of their potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And these could be anything from how food is grown, who grows it, what practices are used, where it's grown, how far it's shipped, what type of food is grown, how it's prepared, how it's thrown away. So I see a lot of people putting in plant-based diets and eating less meat. Nice. Lots around that, minimizing packaging, buying locally grown food, composting, so many things in the chat. This is awesome. Decreasing beef production, no-till agriculture, a couple for locally grown, regenerative ag. Nice, thank you for sharing. That's awesome. So I'm actually gonna share with you the top 3 solutions as ranked by Project Drawdown in terms of their ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So the first one is a big reason we're all here is reducing food waste. So when food scraps are thrown in a landfill, they produce methane, which is a powerful greenhouse gas that's much more potent than carbon dioxide. And not to mention that all of the extra resources it takes to produce food that's just thrown away is a huge waste. If we compare the emissions produced from food waste to emissions produced by entire countries, food waste would be the 3rd largest emitter in the world as a country. So the only countries that emit more than food waste does is the US and China, which just blows my mind. It's crazy. So we're going to hear lots of solutions for reducing food waste here in the Adirondacks shortly. So that's a number 1 solution. The second one is PlantRich diets, which a lot of you put in the chat. And bottom line with this is that it takes far more resources to produce meat and dairy products than vegetable-based products. And we know that diets and what you choose to eat are deeply personal choices that are tied to cultural backgrounds and family traditions. And that wording plant-rich simply means that you don't have to eliminate anything from your diet if you don't feel comfortable doing that. But indulging in these things sparingly can have a large impact on greenhouse gas emissions. And then last, which is a big reason we're here tonight too, is shifting agriculture practices. And this is a term that applies to so many different things. And I don't want to get too far into it because our film today will describe this much better than I can. But generally the concept is that agriculture doesn't have to be an extractive industry. We can grow food in a way that removes greenhouse gases from the atmosphere and restores the land. And we're going to hear much more about that with our film shortly. So that's kind of our big picture of why we're all here tonight. We all care about climate change solutions and our communities. And now we're going to focus in down from these bigger picture concepts to some actual on the ground solutions that are happening here in the Adirondacks. And at the end, you'll also hear some ways for how you can get involved. So I do want to remind everyone at the end of this presentation, Christina from ADK Action will be announcing a student winner for a soil advocate training scholarship. So just stay tuned to that. That'll be a really great way to stay involved after this as well. So we're going to focus more specifically now on composting, and specifically composting here in the Adirondacks. And in case you haven't heard, composting is a process of decomposing food scraps like the ones you see here on your screen, you're welcome, into an organic, nutrient-rich material that can be used as a soil amendment. Composting keeps food scraps out of landfills, which keeps them from producing methane, and it creates a useful product from a waste material. So now I'm going to turn it over to John and Katie Culpepper from Compost for Good, who will get into more details.
Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We're really excited to share what we are involved in with you. We're a big fan of composting of all types. However, we've developed an innovative composter that is relatively inexpensive and capable of composting thousands of pounds of food scraps per year. The composter that we developed is known as an Invessel composter and is essentially a large rotating drum that optimizes the conditions for the microbes that do most of the work, the vast majority of the work, in the vessel, turning organic waste into a valuable resource. There are currently 5 of these composters that we've designed in operation. 4 are in New York State and 1 is in New Jersey. 3 of these composters, including the one at the Wild Center, are in 40-foot shipping containers, just like you see on the highway often. 2 of the other composters are in buildings. Our goal is to have many more of these composters out there in the world, turning millions of pounds of food scraps throughout the Adirondacks, New York State, and elsewhere into a valuable resource. The one you're seeing on the screen is the original composter at North Country School Camp Treetops. And the next slide is the composter at the Wild Center. We're looking at the discharge end of this composter. And this will be part of an upcoming series of educational exhibits on sustainability at the Wild Center. In the next slide, you see, this is the composter at the Pingree School. The Pingree School is in New Jersey, and their maintenance department there took the design that we created, that we put online free and available to anyone who is interested, along with an operating manual, and they built their own. And the next slide, you see this is the composter at the Shipman Youth Center that the Lake Placid students are operating, and this is how we actually loaded that composter into the 40-foot shipping container. And then lastly, this is the composter at the Herman DeKalb Central School up close to the Canadian border. Next year, you will hear from the students who are operating the composter at the Shipman Youth Center and also at the Wild Center.
See, Libby and Ruby, you are up.
Hi. Oh, wait. Okay. Hi, I'm Ruby. I'm the one on the left. What was I about to say? That's it. It's Libby now.
So I'm Libby, I'm the one on the right, and we're going to talk about like our process of composting in the Tupper Lake Middle High School. So Ruby and I each got involved with our school's green team about 3 years ago, and we started learning a lot about composting, and we realized that our cafeteria didn't have a composting system. So that was something that we were really trying to pursue in our school. And we had a lot of trouble at first getting the idea presented to like the school board and the cafeteria staff, and everyone just wasn't sure if it was worth it in our cafeteria to go through the whole process of starting that up, but we were really hoping that we could do it.
And then shortly after that, we went, at the 2018 Youth Climate Summit, we found more inspiration for composting. So at the summit, we decided to make our climate action plan about composting. And we found the best way to start with composting was a waste audit at our school. So we had students compost for 5 days, and then we weighed the amount of food that was thrown away. Yeah, so you can see just how much food we were really like throwing away at our school. This wasn't to start the composting, but more so to prove to the school board like how much of an issue it was and how much money they could save by not throwing the food away. So then with that, we were able to convince them that it was an important issue. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that the numbers on the screen, they're in pounds. So that was like how many pounds of food waste we produced per day that the school was just throwing away. So they were convinced further that we should start up a composting program. And so in combination of the results of the waste audit with the Wild Center getting their new composter, that was really the main game changer for us. Our school finally agreed to implement a composting program, and Here you can see some of the kids at LP Quinn Elementary School using the compost bins to throw their food in there. And really the main thing, like I said, was that the Wild Center got their great new composter. So we were able to not only get composting implemented into the middle high school cafeteria, but also the LP Quinn. So it was all over our whole district, and everyone was really excited to start that up. So as the kids started composting more, we decided that as the green team, it would be a good idea for us to start educating them and really teaching them like why it's important that they do this, and helping them understand like where their food goes to after they just throw it in the bin. So to do that, and also as part of my Gold Girl Scout project, I created this short little video just to show the kids in a remote learning way why they should be composting and what happens to their food. Hi, I'm Libby from the high school, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the composting that we do in our cafeterias. At the beginning of February, both schools started collecting food scraps in the cafeteria. Here's a picture of the first day of composting at the high school. Between both schools, we make about 140 pounds of food scraps per day. We bring our food scraps, known as greens, to the Wild Center, where they are then mixed with browns or wood pellets and grass clippings. Their 4-to-1 ratio reduces the smell of the food waste. That mixture is placed in this composter. The composter is housed in a shipping container, and its internal temperature can reach 145 degrees, which is why we can compost meat and dairy. The machine rotates the compost, and the more food scraps there are, the more it has to be rotated. When the compost first comes out of the machine, it needs to age, which is why the Wild Center added the first food scraps to it in August, and it didn't turn into compost until November. That's how our food scraps from the cafeteria are turned into soil. Keep up the good work next year. Hi, I'm Libby.
After our presentation, we hope you're able to take some of what we did at our school to your own schools, or just start composting. And now I'll pass it over to Astrid and Ellen.
Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Astrid, and Ellen and I are a part of a group of students who run a student-run nonprofit composting business through our school's environmental club. And this is a project that we've been working on for a little over a year now, and it is something that has taken a lot of work. We are very thankful for ADK Action for working with us as our fiscal sponsor and helping to make Placid Earth composting possible. When we compost food waste from our school, businesses in our community, as well as households in our community, and we use the industrial composter that Mr. Culpepper was talking about earlier, and it can take up to 200 pounds of food waste a day.
Our clients, which right now include the high school, one of our local businesses, Green Goddess Foods, and a handful of local residents. They drop off their food waste on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, and we compost in the afternoons. And usually, we get even more waste from the school's lunches, but since students aren't eating in the cafeteria right now, due to the pandemic, we are only getting scraps from the kitchen, but we still deal with 60 to 170 pounds of waste every single time we compost.
Here we are just yesterday mixing together food waste with the wood pellets and getting it ready to put into our digester, who we have lovingly named Joel.
And here we are actually shoveling the food waste that's been mixed with the pellets into Joel, where it'll stay for about 30 days until it comes out the other end as nutrient-rich soil after being turned. And so we turn it about 6 times a week. and it also gets up to 140 degrees inside the drum while the food is decomposing.
I have been working on this compost project and making the nonprofit business for about 1.5 years now, and composting is something that I love to do. Just knowing that we're helping the planet by diverting hundreds of pounds of food waste from the landfill every week is a very rewarding feeling, and you definitely get used to the smell of the compost.
I also love composting because I love the feeling of knowing I'm doing something good to help our environment and our community. And yeah, so although it gets pretty smelly and sometimes a little gross, it is totally worth it every time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ellen and Astrid and Ruby and Libby and John. At this point, we actually have a pause to answer some questions, and I saw that there are some questions coming in the chat. So I'm going to open it up to all our panelists here to answer a couple of the questions that we got. One of them I saw come in earlier is Nathan asked, why does the composter need to be in a shipping container?
I'll tackle that one. The composter does not need to be in a shipping container. The composter, at least the composter that we designed, can be in a building. It can be in in warmer areas. It can be outside. It needs to be covered, but it does not need to be in a shipping container. Shipping containers happen to be great containers for these because they're widely available, and you can completely close off the composter so that no one can enter. So it's a handy building to have, and that's all.
All right, thanks, John. And the next one, I feel like this is one the students will have some input on. This is a question from Dennis. Why is so much food being thrown away? Should students take less or eat all that they take? And he mentioned that in some university cafeterias, they've gotten rid of trays and only allowed small plates to kind of cut down on food waste that way. What do you all think?
I can answer this one. Well, we go to high school, and I don't know how the Tupper Lake cafeteria works, but you don't get to take a certain amount of food. You are given a set portion. You can't really ask for less or more. They just kind of give you what they give you, and you can't really force people to eat food. So if a person is full, they're full, or if they really don't like something, they don't like something, and that is something that would normally end up in the trash. But since we compost, luckily it gets composted.
Yeah, kind of. I agree with Astrid said. In our cafeteria as well, I think it goes for most New York State high schools. There's like a set portion that we're required to take, and it requires like a balanced diet. So you have to take like whatever the vegetable is that day, whatever the fruit is that day, and some kids just don't want to eat all of it. So that's why we were really pushing for the composting program, because we noticed how much kids like didn't want on their tray and how much they didn't eat. And we also started doing something where on the days where our fruit was like a whole fruit, like an apple or an orange or something, if you didn't touch your fruit, we had like a separate bucket you could put your fruit in, and then we would take the bucket of fruit to the main office, so anyone who wanted like an apple or anything could go grab those. And those didn't get composted because they were still perfectly edible. So yeah, there was really nothing we could do about it from what I was told. So yeah, that's why we were really pushing for composting.
And Libby, didn't you notice when you did the waste audit, like you knew like the specific days that had more waste were meals that students didn't like as much? Like there was a pretty direct correlation.
I'd probably say that pizza day had the least amount of waste.
But people will have to take like whole bowls of green beans and they just don't touch it and dump it straight into the garbage because they have to take it. So I'm really glad we were able to find a solution to that, because no one really cares enough to not throw that away.
Yeah. All right, thanks. Let's see, another question from Jill. This is a great question. Why doesn't the compost produce methane? John, I feel like that might be you.
Sure, happy to answer that. That's a great question. So what we're dealing with in a composter is aerobic decomposition. Aerobic decomposition happens when microbes that are oxygen loving decompose the food waste. If you put food waste in an oxygen poor environment, then a different set of microbes will come in, and they're called anaerobes. That's what happens in a landfill, for example. That's what happens in a methane digester. So there are a lot of communities around the world, certainly around the United States, that are beginning to think about anaerobic decomposition, producing methane, burning that methane in an engine to produce electricity or to produce thermal energy for a building. But in this composter, as long as you introduce enough air, as long as there's enough oxygen, then the type of bacteria, the type of microbes that are aerobic will proliferate, and none of the anaerobes will. So very little the goal is no methane produced whatsoever. Methane is a terrible greenhouse gas, and we want to avoid that at all costs.
So that's one of the reasons why this composter is a rotating composter drum, because that is what is introducing air. If you were to fill that composter somehow and not rotate it at all, it would produce methane. It would be an anaerobic it would be anaerobically decomposing, which would be not ideal and less effective in this case, since we're not capturing the methane. So when composters get really smelly, it's often because they are going into anaerobic decomposition and are producing methane gas.
Great, thank you. And our very last question, and I think this was specific to the Lake Placid students, but it may have been for everyone too, is a question from Val. Can we buy your compost?
So at the moment, that is a no, but hopefully one day you will be able to, but I don't know. The whole project, after getting incorporated with ADK Action, was kind of put on a bit of a halt after the pandemic. So we are working on it. And I mean, the composter also just like the compost like just now, probably like last month, just started like being able to actually be used, because I had to like sit for forever after it came out of the end to aerate and stuff. So at the moment it is a no, but hopefully someday soon.
All right, thank you everyone, and thanks for all of your questions. That was fantastic, and I hope you are feeling inspired to learn about some other opportunities to learn more about composting. So I'm going to turn it over to the Compost for Good folks to share some events they have coming up in January.
Yeah, we were really excited about, hoping that people would be excited about composting after this screening. And so we wanted to give folks an opportunity to talk more, ask questions at these, what we're calling Compost Cafes. So these are going to be informal discussions that you can sign up for. We have 3 upcoming in January and February. The first one will just be basics about composting, recipe, what you can add, what you can't add, different types of, any questions that you have about that. And the next one will be different systems, everywhere from backyard systems to commercial and everywhere in between. The drum composter that you've seen, it kind of fits somewhere right in between the backyard scale and the commercial scale. So we'll talk about kind of the spectrum of different composting systems, focusing on aerobic decomposition for the most part though. And then our last one will be community scale composting. That's where we're really excited about. And so whether it's in a school or your community or a hospital or a jail, we're excited about finding opportunities for people to be composting on that scale. So any questions or ideas or thoughts or curiosities that you have, You can sign up for these cafes on the ADK Action website, and I think you'll be getting a link to sign up for these in the follow-up email from the Wild Center. So hope to see you at one or all three of these in the coming couple months.
Yes, and as Katie said, this is meant to be very informal. If you know nothing about composting, that's fine. If you're a medium level composter, that's fine as well. All questions, all participants, would be great.
That's great. And if everyone who is tuning in, you actually should have already, just a few minutes ago, received an email that has all this information in it. So it'll be right there waiting for you. Also in that email, you'll see a survey that'll just as an opportunity to give some feedback about this event and help us plan other compost opportunities in the future. So please, we would love just a couple minutes of your time to provide that as well. But now I'm going to pass it over to Christina from ADK Action.
Great. So on behalf of everyone at ADK Action, I am super excited to announce the winner of our scholarship for the Kiss the Ground Soil Advocate training course. So the course introduces a new old view of soil regeneration and will teach the winner the principles of regenerative agriculture and help students find their soil advocacy pathway so that you can share these principles with different audiences. So without further ado, our winner and future soil advocate is Kaylee Cherry. So Kaylee, by the time you're done viewing Kiss the Ground, you should have an email from us with your course information. And for everyone who is disappointed that they didn't win, make sure you also check your email for the message that Erin alluded to that will point you to some more resources that you can use to kind of proactively move along your soil advocacy journey. And now I will turn this back over to Erin, and she will give us some instructions for how to be watching Kiss the Ground.
Thank you, Christina, and congratulations to Kaylee. That's super exciting. It's finally time. You all thought you were just going to be watching a movie tonight and you got to hear all this other amazing stuff. It's finally time to watch Kiss the Ground, and we're going to be showing it in a little bit of a different way, just to avoid some of the glitches that can come with showing something on Zoom. So we're actually going to ask you to open a different link in a browser to watch the film. You're actually going to be leaving Zoom, leaving all of us, and going to watch the film on your own. And we hope that you're just filled with lots of ideas after this, and we hope those compost cafes coming up in January can be a great place to reconnect and kind of keep the momentum going after you see the film after this. So to access the film, there is this link, which you'll see on the screen. You'll also see it in the chat. You will also see it in that email that was just sent to you. So there's 3 different ways you can get the link. Once you get that link, it will take you to a screen that just looks blank. It'll ask you for a password. That password is Kiss the Ground 2020. You'll also find that in the chat and on the screen. And then that will give you access to the full-length film. So you can go ahead and watch it on your own. So thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight. If anyone needs help accessing the film, please feel free just to type your question in the chat and we can give you a hand with any of the technical aspects. And yeah, it was a really great evening. It was really inspiring to hear from everyone, and hopefully we can just keep that momentum going with this film after. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. And we're gonna let you all go and watch the film. Yeah, maybe if we could have our panelists just turn back on and wave bye to everybody. Yeah, thanks everyone so much for joining us. Awesome, we will kind of hang out. I'll hang out here for a minute or two, just in case there's any technical issues accessing the film. But otherwise we'll send you on your way for a good movie night. All right, it looks like everyone is doing it. All right, thanks everybody.